Today we're going to be reacting to the second part of every single Warhammer 40k faction re-explained, part 2. Please go support his content, and the original video will be in the description. Thank you. Welcome to A Christian Reacts. And before we get into the video, if you like what you see, please consider a like and subscription, and also share it to all platforms, because that really helps the channel out as well. Also, I do things a little bit differently on this channel, as I do react, but I also bring biblical commentary that's close to, not necessarily a one-for-one, but close to the lore or what's being talked about on the screen. So I also want to get this out there. I want to shout out to my first channel member, Andrea. Thank you. You're one of the very few females who watch my channel. You have been there since the beginning, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And again, memberships are now a go, so if you want to help support the channel, it's there. You'll have access to my Discord, and we'll be able to play games and hang out and all that stuff as well. And I'm also looking at maybe doing early videos, where you'll get to see the video early, maybe a day early or something. Let me know if you guys want that or not. I'm not a big fan of gating content behind, paywalls, but I don't know. It's up to you guys. If not, then it'll just be there to really help make, the channel out. Also, I do got a sponsor for this channel, W Energy Drinks. So if you want to check that out, I'm going to put a few flavors on the screen there. They even have one you can put in your milk, which is really good. S'mores, I do believe it's called. And of course, like I said, I'll put them on the screen there. And my discount code is HisWord247, or I will put it in the description, the link, or in the pinned comment. All right, now that we got that out of the way, and I'll get a commercial for that and try to make it funny and all that, but for right now, this is what I got. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started.
For mankind to tread. As your decrees have stated,
guys.
There can be no mercy for such a crime, no pity for such a criminal. I renounce your lordship. You walk in the darkness and cannot be allowed to live. Your sentence has been long overdue, and it is now time for you to die. Despite not having any time to die, Doge...
Sounds like a lot of people going to jail today. Anyways, I won't say that word. Yes.
And Dyer found
I almost did.
some time to do so. With his head lopped clean from his body, the brides of the emperor were no more, and the ecclesiarchy signed a document to stop Van Dyer's reign from happening again. They would no longer be allowed to have men under arms. Men.
Here we go, ladies. All right.
The Adeptus Sororitas, or
Alright, the Adeptus Sororitas. So there's kind of, not necessarily a battle group of females, but there are prophetesses in the Bible. So Exodus 15:20. And Miriam, the prophetess, did you hear that, men? Okay. The sisters of Aaron, or the sister of Aaron, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women went after her with timbrels and with dances. Here's another one. Here is a judge, a leader of Israel. Okay, let's say that again. A leader of Israel, a judge. Her name is Deborah. She also commanded the army, but she was a prophetess. So Judges 4:4. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth. She judged Israel at that time. I guess God isn't a misogynist after all. The problem is the church doesn't want to talk about it, right? The men, right? But anyways, there you go. There are prophetesses in the Bible.
Commonly known as the Sisters of Battle, the nuns with guns, the fighting force of the church. Despite being the main militant faction, the Sisters of Battle, their organization actually is far more diverse than this and have many more nun-based roles for their members. They are organized by various orders with various specialties in mind, such as the non-militant orders like the Hospitaller, Dialogus, and Familius, including things like helping with surgical equipment.
Oh man, You know, this black and red armor right here. I love that. Nice. And even I knew this black and white, but I didn't know about this red armor here. That's pretty cool. And guys, I am gonna give more of my opinions on this, so I am gonna do that.
Various other medical stuff, Duolingo, and a poli-sci.
Duolingo.
These orders are
Duolingo
further
bird.
separated into smaller orders in an almost Space Marine chapter sense, but tend to have more flexibility due to the nature of their work. And in addition to that, there is flexibility between the orders. It is not uncommon for a member of one of the more battle-hardened orders to switch to a more passive one once they sustain battlefield injuries or are a bit closer to retirement. As mentioned before, the Sisters of Battle are a part of their own separate organization, the Order's Militant, and feature the highest number of any given sister. They are the official fighting force of the ecclesiarchy, and they specialize in...
You know, I have a quick question for, you know, feminists out there. Why do you guys make femininity weak? Why do you guys have a problem with that? You guys want it? You think masculinity is the strength and stuff like that, but there's a lot of strength in being a female. I mean, the Adeptus Sororitas are badasses. Excuse my language. But anyways, my opinion, I guess.
Wars of faith. Unlike the deployment of Astartes and Guardsmen, the Sisters of Battle are often deployed with members of the Inquisitorial Ordo Hereticus due to the holy war nature of their battles. The Sisters of Battle are suited up with their own form of specialized power armor that gives them almost like a Joan of Arc vibe to the battlefield. Though lacking the more extreme modifications of a Space Marine's...
You know, I will say, man, without the purity seals, I don't know how Warhammer would be Warhammer. You know what I mean? I think that's a cool aspect, and it gives, I guess, what am I trying to say the word? Darn it. A better decree. Oh my goodness. Anyways, it just makes it, the armor and stuff like that, man, I can't think of the word. Anyways, I like it.
Power armor, mainly to the fact that sisters are, for the most part, regular humans. The power armor of a Sister of Battle almost matches the defensive power.
That's the word. You see the decorative, you know, that these Space Marines or whatever have been through some stuff, right? Or the Adeptus Sororitas. Anyways.
Of an Astartes, but with added flexibility and versatility in exchange for strength. Some of the patterns of armor do allow for the enhancing of genetics, but this is far from the norm. This, combined with an arsenal of tanks and vehicles that have literal church organ rocket launchers on them, really brings across the holy war vibe in a gothic.
Yes, sir.
Accompanying a Sister of Battle in the fields of war is the holy trinity of weaponry: the bolter, the flamer, and the melta. With such a
man, those would look really cool on the tabletop. I bet you they look really cool.
Simple loadout, the Sisters of Battle are able to bring down the glorious flames of the Emperor himself, and his holy light shines on them in other ways during a conflict. Hell, even their jump packs evoke angelic imagery as opposed to the more clunky jetpacks ones that Space Marines have. In times of great turmoil or impossibility, a living saint of the sororitas itself might appear on the battlefield surrounded by a litany of doves and cherubs, an almost comical scene of holy glory followed by literal hellfire. The Sisters are a fascinating organization because they take what is normally seen as a benevolent force and turn it on its head to be a...
And real quick, guys, cherubs are not babies. Okay, I do want to get that out there. Cherubs are very, very tall, okay? Very tall. There was one depicted in the temple, right, as 15-foot tall statue, okay? But they very well could be taller than that, right? In Genesis 6, right, you had the angels mating with women, and what had happened? It created giants, right? So, but anyways.
horrifying method of war. Because the sisters are so zealous, they are nigh impossible to persuade and almost never fall to chaos. In fact, any deviation from the imperial faith may see you killed outright as you are deemed a heretic, and sometimes sisters have even less patience than the Inquisition does. To the Adeptus Sororitas,
I do believe there may have been one, but we're gonna keep our mouths sealed for heresy, you know? I can't remember her name, but anyways, I do believe there was one, maybe.
no punishment is too extreme for blasphemy and heretical behavior. Whether it's lobotomizing traitors to use as shock troops or attaching them physically to agonizing pain engines so they can die for the Emperor, anything goes. The most fascinating part of the sisters, however, is their faith. We discussed how orcs often make things happen through belief because of their sheer number of them. The sisters create miracles where they walk. They are not many psychers like orcs, but they are excessively devout and make up for that. Bullets barely miss targets. They absolutely should hit. Guns jam. Tanks.
Well, see, this is another thing too about, you know, why do we need like female space marines when we got the Adeptus Sororitas, who have their own unique features and are badasses in themselves, right? They, like you said, create miracles where they stand and all that, right? But anyways, I digress.
Malfunction. Enemies slip and fall. The scene from Pulp Fiction is an accurate portrayal of what happens when the sisters fight.
I'd knock that shit off if I was you.
Die, you motherfucker!
Nope.
One of the most prominent figures is the Triumph of St. Catherine, a literal open casket with the saint of a sister's order held aloft by lobotomized servant cherubs and protected by bodyguards of the faithful. The devotion to the Emperor swells so strong
Emperor
that
protects.
acts of faith are made manifest, and sometimes angels themselves. When the sisters go to war, they have thundering organs and litanies screeching out into the battlefield, hymns and songs. They rabble off prayers on their
Brought to you by Hymns.
lips and burn holy fire across the area. They spray holy water down from horns atop their vehicles. It is a genuine holy war, a procession of death. Saint Celestine is an undying deity, arriving precisely where she is needed and returning to the fold after each
Totally not a chaos demon. Okay?
death. When she dies, she sees a crying young girl atop a mountain of bones. Her bones, after every one of her deaths. She climbs this mountain every time to help comfort this crying child and is rebirthed upon the battlefield. And one day, her deaths will create a mountain so large that even she will not be able to traverse it. Is she a demon of the God Emperor? Perhaps, but she'll be shot for saying so. She is genuinely and literally faith made manifest. Some sisters may make a mistake, however, and find themselves questioning their faith, disobeying a command, and even leaving their order. These sisters...
You know, I haven't seen a space marine become a saint. Is there? Let me know in the comments if there's a space marine that has become a saint. Probably is, but I haven't really looked that up, so anyways.
Sisters are sent for reconditioning and are known as the Sisters Repentia. They generally face the front of the line head on and seek retribution and forgiveness from the Emperor himself.
The
Though
executioner's
their actions
mask.
were heretical, Repentia on the fields of battle is an indication of an individual wanting to become forgiven. They run aloft with torture devices attached to their bodies and a chainsword the size of their body, completely armorless, to determine
Their version of a chastity belt.
if this is how they die, or if the Emperor will forgive them. Even the most famous champion of the sisters, that Saint Celestine, was a Repentia. Even she questioned her faith. And if she can do it, so can you. Just don't run away again. They don't really do third chances. The Sisters of Battle are martyrdom-enthused zealots that create miracles in their tread. Their devotion is boundless and also a direct source of their power. A whole army of power-armored soldiers shooting, burning, and melting all in their path is bad enough, but it enters a whole different level when God is on your side. By bolter shell, flamer burst, and melta blast, the mutant, the heretic, and the traitor alike are cleansed of their sin of existence. So has it been for 5 millennia, so shall it be until the end of time. The Imperium devolving into wars of faith is to push its agenda further. Where the xenophobic nature of humanity was once strong, it has now been magnified, and there are plenty of aliens in this galaxy. 6,000 years prior to the current events of 40k, a planet was found by an AdMech exploration vessel. The life forms on the planet were seen using tools, but they were still very primitive, so the planet was marked for destruction to pave the way for the Imperial war machine. However, this was thrown off because of an extreme warp storm and that whole Doge Van Dyer thing. Flash forward to modern day, and an unknown but highly advanced vessel was shot down near an Imperial mining world, and the bodies on this vessel matched those life forms found on that primitive world. The native creatures on that planet were able to evolve rapidly due to them being unobstructed, and their highly advanced gear posed a new threat to the Imperial.
Gundams. No, I'm kidding.
Advancing over these years with a remarkable speed, these are the new upstarts in the galaxy, looking to make a name for themselves, all in the name of the greater good. These are the
That's a little loud.
The alien is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him his ignorance. Seek to understand his differences and acquaint him with his inadequacies. Only then will he accept his place in the greater good. The early
All right. Interesting enough, there's aliens in the Bible. Now, of course, it calls them demons or whatever, but so Revelation 16:13. And I saw 3 unclean spirits. Or hold on, let me get to a better one. Darn it. Sorry. Okay, here we go. And I saw 3 unclean spirits. Or this is Revelation 16:13. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs. What alien species out there looks like frogs? Okay. Come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth. What are these entities doing? Right? Going to the governments. Okay. And the kings of the earth, of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. And what are they doing? Given technology and all that, supposedly, allegedly, let me say that, right? So allegedly, they're giving us technology and all that. But, yeah, very interesting.
history of the Tau is chaotic at best. Due to their extreme speed run to space travel, their journey to the stars were overburdened with inner conflict. It wasn't until the appearance of the ethereals that things began to settle. These Tau to the warring tribes marked their unification under one common belief, the greater good of
The Bible kind of has, you can call them ethereals or whatever, but they're called the stoichion. Yeah, I won't even bring it up. I will find the verse for you, but they're called the stoichion, which are the elemental spirits, right? Paul talks about these guys. It gets mistaken that they're talking about the law of God, but they're way far from Israel. He's in a pagan place, right? Let me find that verse for you, and it talks about, or I'll just bring it up for you real quick.
the Tau Va.
What about the greater good?
How can this be for the greater good?
This system is a caste-based system that seeks to unify and organize the Tau into an effective and successful society while working for their mutual benefit. These castes, in order from lowest to highest, are the Fire or Shas caste, which is soldiers, Earth/Theo, which is manufacturers and industrialists, the Water or Poor, being diplomats and
Okay. Galatian. They're in Galatia. Okay, not Israel. Keep that in mind. So, and it does say, it talks about, to redeem them which were under the law. This is talking about the law of adoption. Okay. When it says law, I want you to think, okay, which law? Instead of just taking it as a whole, it's what law is he talking about, right? Okay. So under the law, which might receive adoption of sons, there we go. And because ye are sons, God sent forth the Spirit of His Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore that are no more servant, but a son. And if a son, then heir to the God, or heir of God through Christ. Ready? Howbeit then, when ye knew not God, ye did service unto them which by nature are no gods. But now, after that ye have known God, or rather known of God, how turn ye again to the weak and beggarly elements? These are the stoichion, right? These are the elemental spirits. Okay. Earth, wind, fire, stuff like that. That's where witches are worship and all that. And they're worshiping these stoichion, elemental spirits. But anyways, there you go.
traders, and the air/core being navy officers. Also, you have the ethereal/un, which is the lords and leaders of the Tau. Now, unlike the paths of the Eldar, the Tau don't get any say into which caste they're in. It's determined upon birth due to inheritance from a parent. Trying to deviate from your caste or trying to do tasks or even use tools assigned to another caste is a grievous crime against the ethereals, and those guilty of this crime tend to be sent to re-education camps, which sounds not so great or good, but a greater good than the good that the Imperium sees as greater.
Any kind of communism or Marxism. Or, I won't say the other one because YouTube did not push it the last time I said it, so I won't say it. Bad guys from World War II.
The guidance of the greater good also encourages the growth of the empire through the absorption of other races and cultures. The expansion of the Tau Empire is split into spheres of time. So far, there have been 5 spheres of expansion, with a 6th one being planned in the current timeline. The first 2 spheres saw the Tau.
I heard those were great games. Warhammer 40k, Gothic Armada or something like that. Anyways, I need to try those games. I have the second one, I do believe, but I don't think I have the first one. But I wasn't a really big RTS guy, but ever since I played Dawn of War, I've been kind of getting into them, even though I suck at Dawn of War.
Tau move beyond their homeworld and settle new planetary systems, known as seps, and absorb multiple races into their ranks. But the third sphere is where we see the Tau interact with the Imperium for the first time, which went about as well as you think it did. The Tau, as mentioned before, are highly advanced compared to some of the other species in the galaxy, and their military tactics are highly precise. Instead of the Imperial methodology of throwing everything at a problem, the Tau carefully assess any battle and take as many precautions as possible. Commonly, you will see a Tau warrior in a heavily modified battle suit with advanced targeting systems. The Tau do not often consider close combat to be something very effective, so they don't really put much stock into it. Their Gundam-like battlesuits have a multitude of functionality, ranging from overwhelming firepower to stealth-based combat, and since they're an upstart species with a bit of technical flair, they have plenty of AI drones that help them on the field of battle. In addition to this, the Tau are also joined on the field of battle by some of the species that have been absorbed into the fold of the greater good. These auxiliaries often employ tactics that the Tau are unable to do on their end, such as the brute force and almost primitive nature of the Kroot, combined with the Geonosian aerial shock attack style of the Vespens. But the Tau assimilate more and more species with time, including even some humans who wish to break off from the Imperium for pick a reason. The aesthetic of the Tau also leans a bit more into the East Asian sci-fi aesthetics. The large mech suits definitely evoke that Gundam look, but the general garb of their higher-ups kind of create that motif, and they often have accents in the games that they are in. But while Tau are looked at as Gundam mech faction by some, others enjoy them for the full coalition of aliens. One of my favorite images in War
Hey, if you really like ranged gameplay, man, they're probably perfect for you. I know, I think I've met somebody who was just an all-out Tau player. And I made a Gundam joke and he didn't like it. So, yeah.
Warhammer is this official artwork by Games Workshop. Now, not a single one of these aliens are a faction in Warhammer, and yet they all are different species that do exist in this universe. The Milky Way galaxy is vast, and while the Imperium and many others exterminate what they can find, the Tau will assimilate those that can be assimilated. The Crew and Vespens we already discussed, and the humans and also Voton will join them at times, but you also have the Galg, the Nikasar, the Vor.
That's a perfect sci-fi scene right there. Eh? So for all any sci-fis trying to up and coming, it'd be good to put something like this up. You know, where you got the ships and in my opinion, a good sci-fi has some kind of war in it. In my opinion. But anyways, I digress.
The Thraxian, the Terrellian, Greet, Damati, and many others. Some of these are just one-off lines, and some are major players in the civilization. The Nikasar are, for lack of a better word, gigantic psychic polar bears with bird-like faces. The Tau have psychic bears. And the fact I haven't seen this is a crime. The Tau as a culture are generally marred by the various issues that an advanced civilization would have in an unadvanced galaxy. They do not travel through the warp because of the insane dangers, but instead use a more classic FTL jump. However, because they aren't going through hell, it makes them a lot slower than many other races. The Imperium might surf through hell and lose a few ships, but they will get there first. Often they will take enormous cannons and weaponry and defeat their foes before they can even close the gap. One of their light walkers carried a weapon of lethal effect. It fired a form of ultra-high velocity projectile. I saw one of our tanks after being hit by it. There was a small hole punched in either flank. One, the projectile's entry point, the other, its exit. The tiny munition had passed through the vehicle with such speed that everything within the hole not welded down had been sucked out through the exit hole, including the crew. We never identified their bodies, for all that remained of them was a red stain upon the ground, extending some 20 meters from the wreck. The fascination of the Tau is that in any other modern day world, their society would be horrid. Rigid caste systems, corruption, and politicking ethereals, and basically it's the greater good or nothing at all. But in the world of Warhammer, the simple fact that humans are accepted into their sphere should they please already puts them far and above the other races that would murder or eat them. But despite this, the existential dread that is the Tau Empire is ever so apparent. Despite
is that elsewhere? Oh, Elsier, okay. I was gonna say I wonder where Bethesda got that from, but anyways, that's funny. Toku. See if there's any. No. Daleth. There's that. Anyways.
Being hyper-advanced and welcoming a coalition of aliens, they are the upstarts, and they are painfully outnumbered on all sides. Almost any other faction in the universe, given the right amount of force, can wipe out the Tau Empire from existence. They themselves might not be perfect, but their slight glimmer of hope is exactly that, a glimmer in a dark and crushing galaxy. Of course, nobody dares take the attempt to destroy the Tau Empire, because doing so is an enormous amount of resources, and for the same reason why you don't full send your whole army to one person in a commander game of Magic. You open yourself up to player 2 and 3. But not to say it won't be a struggle. The Tau Empire, when prepared, are a vicious fighting force who might delete your formation before you even see them.
Dark Tide music,
they lack
let's go.
numbers. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, something is coming that is entirely numbers. There is a cancer
gotta love it.
eating at.
Okay. Now, I actually just did a short on this, but let me find it here. I will bring something up when it comes to Apollyon, which is very interesting. Okay. So this is Revelation 9. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit, as smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth. These are not helicopters, these are actual entities. And in Jasher 4, chapter 4, and I think it's verse 18, it talks about how it goes through the Genesis 6 scenario, right? They're judges and rulers, found women, mated with them, blah, blah, blah. But it also says they taught them taught men how to hybridize, how to mix one species with the other. Okay, so this is what's going on here. These are Nephilim here, right? And Nephilim is an umbrella term that means a hybrid, basically, right? And of course, they're the demons. The book of Enoch talks about how their spirits were, since they were born here and not in heaven, that they're stuck here on earth, and they will be known as evil spirits. And they rise up against us because they, not us. They were supposed to be us and take over, right? But that didn't happen because Jesus was born. Their whole thing was to take out Jesus. But anyways, let me read the rest of this. Okay. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads as it were crowns like gold, and their faces as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of a woman, and their teeth was the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron. And the sound of their wings, so they got wings, okay, and scorpion tails, was as the sound of chariots of many horses running in battle. Here. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. Now, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue, Apollyon. So, and what Apollo means is the destroyer. We know who the destroyer is in the Bible, right? The Assyrian. And in Exodus 3, it says that they would put the blood of the lamb on the lintels or whatever, and so that way they won't suffer the destroyer. Well, the destroyer is the Assyrian, and the Assyrian is also identified in Ezekiel 32 or 34 as king or Pharaoh, king of Egypt. I wonder who that is, the Assyrian or Ra. But anyways, I digress. And also, a lot of people don't know this. Okay, Joel 2 talks about these locusts, right? The army of locusts. So let's go here, right here. So verse 3, Joel 2. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. A land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their face the people shall be much pained, all faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men, they shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march every one on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one thrust another, they shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. They shall run into and fro in the city, and they shall run upon the wall. They climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in the windows like a thief, and the earth shall quake before them, and the heavens shall tremble. Sounds a whole lot like the Tyranids, doesn't it? At least the form of it, right? Anyways, very interesting. Sorry that took longer than I wanted to.
With each decade, it advances deeper, leaving drained, dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this abomination, has thought, and purpose that functions on an unimaginable galactic scale, and all we can try to do is stop the swarms of bioengineer monsters it unleashes upon us by instinct. We have given the horror a name to salve our fears. We call it the Tyrannid race. But if it is aware of us at all, it must only know us as prey. The conflicts of Warhammer 40k are chaos.
All right. So this is Apollo. This is the thing about Apollo. What's interesting is it does mention locusts here. So this is theo.com, cult Apollyon cult. So if you want to look that up. Okay, let me find it here. This is interesting. Where is it? Hold on. I might have went past it already. Okay. Anyways, let me find it here.
Enough with the sheer volume of violence that exists in the confines of the Milky Way. However, there is a threat to the galaxy that extends beyond our known galaxy that is creeping ever closer and cannot be negotiated with. What drew them to the galaxy is unclear. It may have been the light of the Astronomicon itself, like a moth to a flame. It could have been a Xenos device detonated in the Horus Heresy. It could have been that they were done eating the Andromeda galaxy and they have come to take ours, or they might be running from something far, far worse. Regardless of the why, the where, when it came to the first official contact with these creatures.
All right, here we go. So this is Pausanias' description of Greece 124.8. Opposite the temple, the Parthenon on Acropolis of Athens is a bronze Apollon, said to be the work of Pheidias. They call it Parnopion, the locust god. Because once when the locusts were devastating the land, the god said that he would drive them from Attica. That he did drive them away, they know, but they do not say how. So, the locust god, isn't that interesting? And that's associated here with Apollo. I'll show you this. See if you can see it. Okay. The Apollon cult. Very interesting.
Was the planet of Tyran. This is the site where the Imperium encountered a fleet of these creatures before being utterly torn to shreds. Thus, these creatures became known as the Tyranids. There is plenty of evidence that the Tyranids have been lurking in our galaxy for years beforehand, but this was the first true instance of their presence being fully known. Unlike other creatures in the realm of 40k that can be talked to, captured, or negotiated with, the Tyranids are unable to be reasoned with. They are at the
I would have to say that's probably my favorite song from Dark Tide. But anyways, I'm sure that's everybody's favorite song.
their core animals, but not the fun kind of animals. They are the xenomorphs of 40k, and boy are they hungry. They are instinctively hardwired to either kill or be killed, and they are an unrelenting force due to this. However, just because they don't talk outwardly doesn't mean they don't communicate with one another. The true horror of the Tyranids is found in their driving force, the hive mind.
3, 2, 1.
Hot in here by Nelly.
That's what I guessed. What?
You see, the Tyranids are a collective consciousness that are all connected to a singular embodiment of psychic power that is utterly incomprehensible to the human mind. To keep this connection there, the Tyranids on the field of battle are followed around by synapse creatures.
So here's kind of a look-see into the hive mind of demons and stuff, or the kingdom of darkness. Okay, so this is, for he said unto him, come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. So this is Jesus talking to him, right? And he asked him, what is thy name? And he answered, saying, my name is Legion, as one, right? Check this out. For we are many. So, sounds like a hive mind, doesn't it? Okay.
Essentially serving as their Bluetooth connection to the greater hive mind. This allows them to send and receive information about the battle they're in, and it also allows them to adapt to certain situations based off of the information gained. Depending on the enemy, the swarm might be able to develop a new weapon or new tactics so they can get the upper hand. When the synapse connection is cut, they are unable to essentially form a save state and are stranded. The sheer power of the hive mind presence pours from each Tyranid in such a manner that it causes a distortion in the warp itself. A hive fleet's arrival can cause a dark shadow the size of several light years, coined the shadow in the warp. This shadow prevents any usage of the warp, or at least makes it exceptionally difficult. Communications shut down due to astropaths being unable to talk. Ships cannot freely enter the warp, and even creatures with a warp sensitivity feel an immense dread due to it. It causes everything to just kind of sit dead, like at a buffet counter waiting for the afternoon meal rush. The Tyranids meander through the galaxy in these gigantic hive fleets that are fueled by bioships, and these ships contain birthing pools for Tyranid armies and more ships. Everything about the Tyranids is organic, and to fuel this war machine
kind of reminds you of the Leviathan in Farscape. If you don't know, the Leviathan in Farscape was an actual living entity, but it was also a spaceship. They had warp, or was it FTL then? In that, I can't remember. But anyways, it was a living ship.
the Tyranids consume any and all biomass they come across and absorb it into their respective hive. From the ground to literally the air, the Tyranids strip a planet to a lifeless and uninhabitable hulk. As a means to curb the advancement of the Tyranids, the Imperium has been known to preemptively exterminatus worlds in the path of a hive fleet so that they have less biomass to consume in an attempt to starve them. The Halo method, literally scorched earth tactics by taking everything out of the freezer and lighting it on fire. Outside of the obvious threat and adaptive and unreasonable enemy posed on the field of battle, the most dangerous aspect of the Tyranids comes in the form of their general unpredictability. The Tyranids are external to the Milky Way galaxy itself, and it's unknown where they truly hail from. However, their arrival in the Milky Way is seemingly random and in 3D space.
I like that aspect of the Tyranids, because you don't know where they come from, right? And what their quote unquote motives, which is eat everything, but still, you don't know if there's another species like them out there. And it brings a lot of mystery to it, right? And are there more? And blah, 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 blah. But anyways.
Implying quite heavily that Tyranids have the galaxy surrounded in some kind of way. Due to this, you will sometimes see instances of species engaged in a separate conflict, both agree to a temporary truce in order to take out a Tyranid threat. Because regardless of the stakes at hand, the existence of the Tyranids marks the heat death of the galaxy itself, and all the factions can ultimately agree that the Tyranids themselves act as the biggest threat to all of them. The Tyranid race is truly an unknowable horde, and pulls from that horror of the unknown. They, as a faction, are not ones with a large amount of general lore because their entire race is told from the point of view of those being eaten by them.
By the way, YouTube, he's not saying a bad word, okay? He's saying horror, okay?
Tyranids are called that due to the planet Tyran they destroyed, as we mentioned earlier, and their names are often phrases given to them by their victims: the Swarm Lord, Old One-Eye, the Death Leaper, Von Ryan's Leapers, and so on. Despite the inability to even perceive the vast psychic hive mind of the Tyranids, they are fiercely intelligent. Special poisons and items designed to counter them are adapted in a matter of hours. If you bring light infantry, they create heavy monsters. If you brought weapon emplacements, they spawn little creatures to scour your vents and sewers. Many of you enjoyed the Servitor excerpt from part 1, and so bear with me as I provide you another very long account of a planetary governor whose planet is in the final death throes of the Tyranid menace. This starts about halfway through. It has been many weeks since a handful of us escaped the sinking of the Seafort Divine Anchor via airlift. We have escaped in this manner because the Tyranids had overwhelmed so much of our world, they no longer appeared to need to continue spawning beasts for aerial supremacy.
Jeez.
I shall never forget what I saw from my craft's portholes. Alien biostructures dominated Huto's surface. Gigantic, lumpen barnacles pumped out clouds of matter to further poison the planet alongside pulsating, brain-like nodes that resembled lethal fungi. Immense capillary towers stretched high into the poisoned sky. The glistening chitin coating their flanks crawled over by chains of lesser beasts fulfilling some sick alien purpose I cannot know. Digestion pools spread for miles, replacing our once great lakes with reservoirs of bubbling biomatter. Tides of creatures bloated with consumed flesh vomited their guts into the pools or threw themselves entirely into the billowous liquid. Amidst the seas of feeder beasts consuming all in their path, we would every so often see an explosion or a burst of fire.
All right, so I'm just going to take the time to stop it there for copyright. I have nothing much to say here. I'm just doing it so I don't get in trouble. So, anyways.
These heroic final stands by other survivors, or merely abandoned ordnance detonating at random, I will never know. I cannot rejoice in the deaths they inflicted. The biomatter of the dead Xenos was surely recycled by the Xenos regardless in no time at all. Our aircraft ran out of fuel a week ago. Now I stand in the snow, not far from the peak of Mont Saint Hilaire. I am the only one left that I know. One by one, those with me perished. The slightest cut on a mountain rock resulted in an immediate...
Where is Huto in the galaxy? Like, Segmentum Obscurus, or where is it? Let me know in the comments. Anyways.
Infection that left the pilot screaming in agony. Her co-pilot fired the shot that ended her torture, and my senior aide threw himself from a ledge, the reality that there was no escape hitting him. I have no idea what happened to my chief medicae. Others were slain by lone beasts the rest of us were unable to kill or drive away. A justly deserved end will soon be mine. I have failed on every possible level. We were not even able to send word. An alien disease has me within its grasp. My limbs are numb, my tongue is dry as sand, my head throbs. Even at these chilled heights, I sweat profusely. From here where I sit, I can see the final death unfold on the planet entrusted to me. Before me is the Radarin Ocean. The water level is visibly dropping, hour by hour. They are even taking...
Never mind, it just gives me Huto, Texas. A 40k group in Austin, Texas? Huto, Texas. Never mind. Anyways, if you guys know, let me know in the comments there.
Our seas. There are enormous beasts with great, slowly flapping wings and immense open maws moving through the sky. I may be at high altitude, but the air is thinner here than it should be. I know enough of mountaineering to know that. They will not even leave our air. There is an isthmus I can see, upon which is sat one of the Xenos capillary towers. Now I believe I can tell what they are truly for. High up, foul Xenos bioships cling to their flanks like twisted calves at their mother's udders. They are feasting, I am sure, hungrily filling themselves to burst on the hideous gruels that are what remains of my people. I have witnessed the planet's death from sinister start to hideous conclusion. I see the power of our foe, and though I have shown boundless weakness these past months, I do not see how we could ever have won. If this is any sort of good news, it seems that one thing that might be an inadvertent repellent effect on the Tyranids is chaos. Chaos and chaotic...
Is that Magnus the Red? Yeah, they're... Definitely a demon of some kind.
Energies offer no nourishment to the Tyranids, they cannot eat that. And the presence of rifts and warp storms work as a means to starve out the Tyranid fleet. The Tyranids, of course, are attempting to adapt to this, but it seems that even at the most primal core of the galaxy itself, Chaos agrees that these dinner guests are not welcome in any way, shape, or bioform. In the end, though, the Tyranids represent the final fears of the galaxy itself. Despite the goals to conquer the galaxy as a whole, the remainder of the universe may very well be dead and derelict space. Instead of endless worlds and solar systems, it may just be bones and ash. The tendrils of the hive mind have wrapped themselves around the galaxy, and the only thing that's guaranteed is that dinner is served. However, the Tyranids are not simply the unending hordes of bugs. Beyond the more general buffet tactics of the force of the Tyranids, the hive mind has a more secretive and dangerous means of planetary conquest in the form of something a bit more terrestrial. General upheaval and revolution. However, though the idea of a societal revolt for the good of the populace is an admirable thing, these leaders have the nefarious intent of the hive mind itself. These are the downtrodden and the oppressed, the revolutionaries to a better cause, the heralds of the Star Children. These are the
Gene Stealer Colts.
In the sunless body of our hive, the flock of the faithful grows. We are guided by our great Father's sacred vision, protected by his loving hands. Within these holy shadows we dwell, while the impure bathe in spire-topped starlight. And what lies between those stars? What sails beyond those distant suns? Shrouded in night, born within that eternal black, our redeemers, our gods, truer than the silent, long-dead emperor, the children of the void. We hear them in our dreams, we feel them in our blood. They call and we will answer. We will rise and claim the engines of labor that have bound us in servitude. This world will burn. It will be cleansed, purified, made ready, and the heavens will deliver our reward. The grounds
And definitely a mixture of Tyranid and the Imperium of Man, that's for sure.
zero of a Gene Stealer cult comes in the form of the Gene Stealer itself. Deep in the depths of a planet, a Gene Stealer acts as almost an advanced recon unit for the Tyranids, and were the first Tyranid units encountered by the Imperium itself long before the first Hive Fleet made its presence known. Unlike the Tyranids that can only reproduce through the birthing pools in the fleet, a Gene Stealer reproduces via the Big Smooch. The Gene Stealer kiss is essentially what the facehugger alien does. It attaches to a victim and releases an embryo. However, instead of a chest burster, the embryo alters the genetic makeup of the host itself, turning it into the primary conductor of a localized version of a hive mind known as the brood mind. Any offspring that this host produces is known as a Gene Stealer hybrid, and the host assures their survival to continue to reproduce. The first few generations of a Gene Stealer hybrid look more like the Gene Stealer itself, which in our current reality would be terrifying. But considering how the vast majority of humanity is a little mutated in 40k, it doesn't stand out as much as it should. As the generations continue, the mutations and the general alien look is almost entirely phased out, and the resulting hybrids look almost identical to the species that they once were. Due to the size of most worlds, the makings of a Gene Stealer cult can exist almost entirely in secret, generation after generation. After a certain period of time, those hybrids will make their way into generalized society. Still connected to the mind of the Gene Stealer itself, the hybrids operate with the express goal of gaining power within society itself in a political and religious sense. Most of the time, they will present themselves as revolutionaries, looking for the betterment of the population. And honestly, it sounds great for a lot of the folks on the planet. By the people, for the people. As they expand more openly, the cross
And become a hybrid. And be subservient to another faction.
breeding continues until all aspects of the planet's society is infiltrated. However,
Or should I say food? Most likely.
all bets are off when a hive fleet comes close enough. When a Tyranid hive fleet gets close enough to a planet, the brood mind activates essentially an endgame scenario. The once political and religious leaders become bloodthirsty fanatics that work to finalize the collapse of society and the death of those who oppose them. But to those in the broodmine, the god they believe in is coming, and this is holy justice and vindication for their religious and political beliefs. As the hive arrives, the planet is essentially ripe for the taking. The original gene stealer pieces out to the next world or is reabsorbed for deployment elsewhere, and the Tyranids begin to take the planet for themselves. The cultists sing praises and holy songs as the Tyranids begin to eat everything up in kind of a meet the pyro sense of religious delusion. But as they are harvested, some of them are snapped back to reality, oops, there goes gravity, before they are thrown into the biomass soup. For a fleeting second, they see that this was all a ruse to consume the world and that their false gods were a bunch of hungry bugs. The cultists essentially put the checkerboard dining cloth on the table for them and invited them for a feast. Due to the constant redeployment of gene stealers, there are known cults that pop up across the Imperium itself. Some of the more well-known ones are the cult of the Bladed Cog or the Rusted Claw, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different cults that keep popping up all over the galaxy as the gene stealers spread. And due to their covert means taking over the planet, they are not generally viewed to be a threat until it is far too late. And due to the know-how of gene stealers, they tend to be predatory to those in the lower classes of a given planet. The gene stealer cults overall have really come into their own, commercially and artistically. They have very much embraced the revolutionaries aesthetic and crafted a fascinating method in doing so. It's this great combination.
I do like that too. You know, it is kind of cool that you get this revolutionary thing coming up, you know, that the aliens or Tyranids, I should say, gene stealers, are slowly and methodically taking out a population, right? And then at the end, you get eaten by the gods you were supposedly trying to, or that you were worshiping and stuff like that. Anyways, I think that is kind of a Warhammer 40k story there. Oh, come on, internet. Don't do this to me now.
Of this pseudo-Marxist Bolshevik uprising mixed with the hills have eyes in the populace. What's particularly enjoyable about their uprising,
yeah, just like the Bolsheviks did to the Muslims. I wonder how many wars in Russia with the Muslims that they had, you know, the Chechens and all that. They told them, yeah, we're gonna free you from those bad czars. And then they ended up pretty much enslaving the Muslims. But if you ever wondered why, that's why they're tight today. But anyways, I won't get into that.
is that often from their point of view, the reason
And it has nothing to do with, let's just say, identity politics, we'll just say, right? And it's crazy. I mean, Tel Aviv is more friendly to them than, you know, anyways, you get the gist.
they have are extremely justified. Most of the members of the GSC are the extremely impoverished and menial laborers of the Imperium, who honestly wouldn't need an alien presence to provide a manifesto on reasons to revolt. Their weapons are all makeshift and often involve things like mining lasers, drilling saws, demolition charges, giant stop signs. Their political machinations work quite well, as the cult ends up being really good at assassination, especially when you have a third arm holding a pistol beneath all those robes.
Those stop signs are just Fortnite pickaxes. They bought a skin.
Faction rife with fascination and culture, and their plans are generations in the making, to the end goal of being thrown right back into the soup by the star children they prepared the world for. And those are the threats to the galaxy now. The degradation of almost every species is now behest by the Tyranid menace, and all of the infighting between each and every single one of them will be their undoing. The world of Warhammer is a bleak and horrendous one, and that is in its own right the charm. It is so large, so vast, so absolutely horrendous and insane, and yet is treated with 100% severity and seriousness. In the beginning of part 1, I gave you an abridged and different opening to the Warhammer world, the grim darkness of the far future, and I leave you with this part 2 with the full quote itself. It is the 41st millennium. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of 1,000,000 worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium, for whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day so that he may never truly die. Yet even in his deathless state, the Emperor continues his eternal vigilance. Mighty battle fleets across the demon-infested miasma of the warp, the only route between distant stars, their way lit by the Astronomicon, the psychic manifestation of the Emperor's will. Vast armies give battle in his name on uncounted worlds. Greatest amongst his soldiers are the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, bioengineered super warriors. Their comrades in arms are Legion, the Imperial Guard, and countless planetary defense forces, the ever-vigilant Inquisition, and the tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus, to name only a few. But for all their multitudes, they are barely enough to hold off the ever-present threat from aliens, heretics, mutants, and worse. To be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. These are the tales of those times. Forget the power of technology and science, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. There is no peace amongst the stars, only an eternity of carnage and slaughter and the laughter of thirsting gods. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Alrighty. So we're going to end the Bricky saga right there. I'm going to move on to a Border Prince, Voldemort, what is that? Or Baltimore, sorry. Vox in the Void, Luton, and stuff like that. So Bricky will be done from here on out. So I won't be doing Bricky anymore. Unless he brings something else up. But for right now, I'm not going to touch Bricky. And I know some of you guys don't like him. I'm iffy on him sometimes. There's a lot of things that he says that are just right. But like the Imperium is an empire, not, the other group. But anyways, I digress. But anyways, we're going to end it here. Like I said, I want to thank you guys for support my content. And if you like the video, thank you. If you dislike the video, thank you for at least giving me a chance. Also, like I said, W Energies or drinks are sponsoring this channel. So if you want to check them out, use my code, his word, 247, and the link will either be in the pinned comment or the description, so you can check both those out. And if you buy something from them, you're helping the channel out. I do get commissions from it. So, and if you do, thank you very much. And again, I want to thank Andrea for being my first member. Thank you very much. You are awesome. And for everybody who watches these videos and likes and all that stuff, thank you. You guys have a wonderful day.